Max Thornton prided himself on being unflappable. After 15 years of cargo hauling through the most dangerous and bizarre sectors of mapped space, he'd seen things that would make military veterans faint. He'd bartered with a multi-minded Vex collective, survived a 3-day drinking contest with Krogan mercenaries, and once delivered emergency medical supplies through an active asteroid storm. Nothing shocked Max anymore. At least, that's what he believed until tonight. The Cosmic Junction Bar on Port Nexus was Max's favorite spot when docked at Vidian Prime. The space station served as a major hub for 17 different species, making it ideal for someone like Max who enjoyed watching the universe's diversity pass by while nursing his synth beer. The bar itself was a marvel of xeno-architectural accommodation, with seating options for every conceivable body type and atmospheric mixers that created perfect breathing pockets for each patron. Max sat at his usual corner spot, legs stretched out, enjoying the ambient buzz of translator modules converting dozens of languages into a peculiar symphony of communication. His cargo was unloaded, payment received, and he had 3 blessed days of downtime before his next haul. Another synth beer, Captain Thornton asked Grill, the Vespid bartender, mandibles clicking as he spoke. Why not? Got nowhere to be until... Max's words died in his throat as he spotted her. She stood near the entrance, her emerald skin capturing the ambient light in a way that made her seem to glow from within. She was clearly Narian, a humanoid species known for their diplomatic core and scientific achievements. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, her willowy frame was accentuated by the subtle patterns on her skin that shifted with her movements, a biological trait of her species that humans often found mesmerizing. Max had encountered Narians before, but never one that made his heart rate increase like this. She moved with a fluid grace that suggested she was perfectly comfortable in Vidian Prime's gravity. Her 4-fingered hands gestured expressively as she spoke to the host, her silver eyes scanning the room. Those eyes found his. Max looked away, then mentally kicked himself for the adolescent response. When he looked back, she was walking directly toward him. "This seat appears unoccupied," she said, her voice melodic with the slight harmonic undertone characteristic of Narians. "Would you object to sharing your table?" Max gestured to the empty chair. "Be my guest. I am Nyla Narin," she said, settling into the chair with that same fluid grace. "Max Thornton, independent hauler." "A pleasure, Captain Thornton. I observe you are human. I've had limited but intriguing interactions with your species." Max raised an eyebrow. "Professional interest?" "Indeed. I'm a xenobiologist specializing in cross-species compatibility studies. Humans are particularly fascinating subjects due to your remarkable adaptability." Max took a long drink of his synth beer. "Compatibility studies?" Nyla's skin patterns shifted to a deeper green, which Max vaguely remembered indicated amusement or interest in Narians. "Yes, anatomical, physiological, biochemical, and..." She paused, silver eyes studying him intently, "reproductive compatibility between sentient species." Max nearly choked on his drink. "Have I caused discomfort? I'm told humans can be sensitive about reproductive discussions in social settings." Her patterns shifted again, this time to a lighter hue. "No, just surprised by your directness," Max replied, finding himself oddly charmed by her forthright manner. "Most people start with lovely weather we're having, or something equally mundane. Artificial weather patterns on a space station seem an inefficient conversation topic," Nyla said, accepting a drink from Grill, something that glowed faintly blue. "I prefer substantive exchange." "Then let's have one," Max replied, surprising himself with his boldness. "What brings a Narian xenobiologist to Vidian Prime?" "Research sabbatical. I'm documenting biophysical responses between compatible species. My formal affiliation is with the Narian Diplomatic Science Council, but this project is independent." She took a sip of her glowing drink. "And you, Captain Thornton? What cargo do you haul through the void?" For the next 2 hours, they talked without pause. Max found himself captivated by Nyla's brilliant mind and direct conversation style. She asked penetrating questions about his experiences with different cultures, seeming genuinely fascinated by his stories of close calls and strange encounters across the galaxy. In turn, she shared insights about Narian culture that few outsiders were privy to. Most assume our diplomatic prowess comes from our collectivist philosophy, she explained, but it's actually driven by our biological imperatives for harmony. Conflict literally causes us physical discomfort. Must make scientific. Disagreement's interesting, Max quipped. Indeed, we developed elaborate protocols for academic discourse. The human academic approach of aggressive debate would hospitalize most Narian scholars. Max laughed, then realized they'd moved closer together during their conversation. He could now see the intricate patterns on her skin were actually sophisticated biological information displays, showing emotional and physiological states to other Narians. Your patterns, he gestured toward her arm. What are they showing now? Nyla looked down, and the patterns briefly intensified. They indicate significant interest. Interest in what? In you, Captain Thornton, she said simply. Would you find it agreeable to continue our conversation in a more private setting? My apartment is in the diplomatic quarter, significantly more comfortable than this establishment. Max stared at her for a moment, wondering if he'd misunderstood. That's very direct. Is directness not preferable when mutual attraction is evident? Her patterns swirled rapidly. Perhaps I've miscalculated human social protocols again. No, Max said quickly. Direct is good. Direct is excellent, actually. The diplomatic quarter of Vidian Prime was every bit as luxurious as rumor suggested. Nyla's apartment occupied an entire level of one of the curved spires that defined the station's silhouette. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a spectacular view of the nearby gas giant Vidian and its swirling amber storms. Quite a place. Max whistled as he followed Nyla inside. Diplomatic perks? My father is Ambassador Pin Naren, she explained, activating the apartment systems with a gesture. Soft ambient lighting and gentle atmospheric adjustments followed. While I've chosen scientific pursuits over diplomacy, familial connections have their advantages. The apartment was a fascinating blend of Narian aesthetics and universal functionality. Living vegetation grew along specially designed wall channels, creating natural patterns that complemented Nyla's own skin displays. The furniture looked both exotic and invitingly comfortable. Would you care for a nightcap? Nyla asked, moving to what appeared to be a beverage station. Please, Max said, still taking in the surroundings. As Nyla prepared their drinks, Max noticed something unusual about the space. There were scientific instruments subtly integrated throughout the living area. Holographic displays showed complex molecular structures, and what looked like a laboratory workstation was discreetly tucked into an alcove. You live with your work, he observed. The distinction between work and life is primarily a human construct, Nyla replied, returning with 2 glasses containing an iridescent liquid. For Narians, passion and profession ideally align. Does this trouble you? Not at all. Just making an observation. They settled onto a curving sofa that adjusted to accommodate their differing physiologies. Max found himself increasingly aware of Nyla's proximity. Her emerald skin seemed to pulse with subtle patterns that drew his eye. Your species fascinates me, Nyla said, sipping her drink. Humans possess remarkable genetic flexibility. While many species can interbreed only with extensive medical intervention, humans show natural compatibility with an unusually high percentage of humanoid species. Is that your professional interest talking? Max asked with a slight smile. Both professional and personal, she admitted. Forgive my directness, but I find you particularly compelling, Max Thornton. Your physiological responses suggest the interest is mutual. Max felt a flush creep up his neck. That obvious, huh? Your pupillary dilation, elevated respiration, and microcirculatory changes are quite informative, she said with a slight curve of her lips. Humans broadcast their attractions quite visibly to those who know how to observe. And what do Narians broadcast? Max asked, moving slightly closer. We are more controlled in our external displays, she said, but our skin patterns reveal much to those who understand them. She placed her glass down and turned fully toward him. Would you like to learn to read them? I would, Max said, his voice dropping lower. The intensity of color indicates emotional engagement, she explained, extending her arm toward him. The patterns swirled with increasing complexity, deepening to a rich emerald with streaks of silver. The speed of pattern movement correlates to interest. In this, she guided his fingers to a part of her arm where the patterns formed intricate whorls, indicates attraction. Max felt the patterns warm beneath his fingertips. And what does this mean? He asked, tracing a pattern that seemed to follow his touch. That is a response unique to personal contact, she said, her silver eyes holding his. It shows anticipation. Their first kiss was tentative, an exploration of alien territory for both. Her lips were warmer than a human's, with a slight sweet taste that reminded Max of starfruit. He found the difference intoxicating. As their embrace deepened, Nyla's skin patterns flared with intensity, creating beautiful light displays across her exposed skin. Max was fascinated by how she responded to his touch, the patterns flowing like liquid light beneath his fingers. Your biology is both similar and wonderfully different, Nyla whispered against his ear. The variations create unique interactions. What followed was a dance of discovery, two beings from different worlds finding the beautiful harmonies between their species. Nyla guided him through the subtle differences in Narian physiology, her scientific precision giving way to passionate abandonment as they explored each other. Max had been with non-humans before, but never had he experienced such an intense connection. Every touch seemed to create cascading waves of pleasure for Nyla, visible in the brilliant pulses of light flowing across her skin. As their intimacy escalated, Max found himself lost in the moment, all thoughts of xenobiological differences forgotten in the heat of passion. That is, until it happened. The sound started low, a gentle hydraulic whisper that Max barely registered through his haze of pleasure. But within seconds, it grew into something unmistakable and absolutely terrifying. Slurp. The noise was thunderous, a wet, powerful suction sound like someone enthusiastically slurping the last dregs of spaghetti from a bowl, but amplified 100-fold. It seemed to emanate from where their bodies joined, creating not just sound, but a powerful physical sensation. Max's eyes flew open in horror. The slurping intensified, now accompanied by a rhythmic pulsing sensation that felt like it might pull his very soul from his body. What the hell? Max screamed, scrambling backward so violently he fell off the bed. The slurping sound ceased immediately. Max! Nyla looked down at him with confusion. Is something wrong? Wrong? Wrong. Max was already grabbing his pants from the floor, trying to put them on while maintaining maximum distance. What was that? What was what? Nyla seemed genuinely confused. That, slurping, sucking, thing. Max gestured wildly toward her lower body, now backing toward the door while struggling to get his shirt on backward. Understanding dawned in Nyla's silver eyes. Oh, you mean the reproductive resonance. It's perfectly normal, Max. It's just, but Max wasn't listening. Primal fear had overridden all rational thought. With one final look of absolute terror, he bolted for the door, still wearing only his underwear and half-on shirt. Max, wait, Nyla called after him, but he was already sprinting down the corridor, barefoot and wild-eyed, leaving the apartment door sliding shut behind him. Max didn't stop running until he reached the end of the diplomatic quarters' main corridor, heart hammering in his chest. He stood there, panting, acutely aware that he was practically naked in one of the most prestigious areas of the station. May I be of assistance, sir? A holographic concierge materialized beside him, its programmed expression politely ignoring his state of undress. I was just... Max struggled to explain his situation without sounding completely deranged. You appear to be in distress, the concierge observed unhelpfully. Would you like me to contact station security? No, Max said quickly. The last thing he needed was to explain to security why he was running half-naked through the diplomatic corridor. I'm fine. Just had a misunderstanding with someone. A misunderstanding with a Narian, perhaps? The concierge asked, its holographic face showing a knowing expression. Max blinked in surprise. How did you know? Your reaction is quite common among non-Narians encountering certain aspects of Narian physiology for the first time. Would you like me to explain? You know about the slurping thing? The reproductive resonance chamber. The concierge corrected professionally. Yes, it's a well-documented biological feature of Narian anatomy. Perfectly harmless, though admittedly startling to the uninitiated. Max leaned against the wall, his panic beginning to subside. What the hell is it? Narian reproductive systems include a specialized muscular cavity that creates a vacuum-like suction effect during intimate encounters. This ensures optimal genetic material transfer and is considered highly pleasurable by Narians. The sound, which many non-Narians compare to various eating noises, is simply the acoustic result of this perfectly natural process. Why didn't she warn me? Max demanded. Narians often forget to mention it, as it's entirely natural to them, the concierge explained. Like humans rarely think to warn others about blushing or sneezing. Max ran a hand through his hair, embarrassment beginning to replace his fear. So it's not dangerous? Not in the slightest. The suction is precisely calibrated to be pleasurable rather than harmful. Though I understand it can be quite startling the first time. Max's communicator buzzed, displaying a message from his friend Hank Rogers, another human cargo hauler who frequented Vidian Prime. Max, Grill said you left with a Narian scientist earlier. Everything okay? Max moved away from the concierge and replied, Hank, the weirdest thing just happened. Her parts made this horrible slurping sound like. The response came almost immediately. Ha ha ha, you encountered the Narian slurp. Classic. First time's always a shocker. Let me guess, you ran out half-dressed. Max scowled at his communicator. You knew about this and never mentioned it. Honestly thought it was just an urban legend until it happened to me last year. Lola Nerix from the Science Ministry? Same thing. I nearly died of fright. But trust me, go back. It's worth getting used to. I can't just go back. I screamed and ran out of there like I was being murdered. Then you have two choices. Go back and apologize, or spend the rest of your time on Vidian Prime hiding from the diplomatic order and being the laughingstock of Port Nexus when this story gets around. And trust me, it will get around. Max groaned, knowing Hank was right. News traveled fast in port communities, and a human cargo hauler fleeing half-naked from a diplomat's daughter would be prime gossip. The thought of facing Nyla again was mortifying, but less so than the alternative. Fine, I'm going back. Smart move. And Max? Maybe ask for some explanation next time before diving into alien waters. Max pocketed his communicator and turned back toward Nyla's apartment, trying to summon his courage. The walk back felt infinitely longer than his panicked sprint away had been. When he reached her door, he hesitated, then pressed the notification panel. To his surprise, the door opened immediately. Nyla stood there, now wearing a simple silver robe, her expression unreadable. I wasn't certain you would return, she said quietly. I'm sorry, Max said, feeling utterly foolish. I reacted badly. Please come in. She stepped aside, allowing him entry. I should be the one apologizing. I failed to prepare you for a perfectly normal physiological response that might seem alarming to a human. Once inside, Max noticed she had prepared 2 fresh drinks. The apartment's lighting had been adjusted to a calmer, more subdued setting. The concierge explained a bit about the, Max struggled to find appropriate words. Reproductive resonance, Nyla supplied, her skin patterns showing what Max now recognized as embarrassment. It's a muscular suction mechanism that ensures optimal genetic material transfer. The sound is merely a byproduct of the process. He mentioned that, Max said, accepting the offered drink gratefully. I'm sorry I freaked out. It was just so unexpected. The fault is mine, Nyla insisted, sitting across from him rather than beside him this time. I've spent years studying cross-species compatibility, yet I failed to properly prepare you for a perfectly normal aspect of Narian physiology. It was unprofessional and inconsiderate. It's not exactly something that comes up in casual conversation, Max offered, attempting to lighten the mood. By the way, when we get intimate, my reproductive organs might make a sound like someone inhaling a bowl of noodles. To his relief, Nyla's skin patterns shifted to indicate amusement. An apt comparison, actually. Many species describe it similarly. The Vespids refer to it as the Great Consumption, while Terran documentation often uses soup analogies. How does it even work? Max asked, curiosity beginning to overcome his embarrassment. Nyla's scientific enthusiasm visibly returned. Narian reproduction evolved in an environment where genetic material needed to be protected from external contaminants. The resonance chamber creates a specialized vacuum environment while simultaneously stimulating production of compatible genetic material in a partner. It doesn't hurt the partner, does it? Quite the contrary. Most species report it as intensely pleasurable once the initial surprise passes. The chamber creates precisely calibrated pressure waves that stimulate nerve clusters in most compatible species. Max took a long drink. And this is normal for all Narians? Yes, though the intensity varies. Diplomatic lineages like mine tend to have stronger resonance capabilities, an evolutionary adaptation that facilitated interspecies alliances throughout our history. Wait, Max set his glass down. Your family's diplomatic status is actually biological? Partially, Nyla acknowledged. Certain Narian lineages developed enhanced compatibility with other species over generations. My family has been in diplomatic service for 17 generations, with genetic modifications to optimize cross-species communication and compatibility. The implications slowly dawned on Max. So, your family was essentially bred to be good diplomats, including being physically compatible with other species? A crude but essentially accurate assessment, Nyla said, though we prefer to think of it as specialized adaptation rather than breeding. Modern diplomatic families continue the tradition through careful genetic optimization. Against all odds, Max found himself becoming increasingly fascinated rather than repelled. Nyla's matter-of-fact scientific approach was oddly reassuring, transforming the terrifying experience into something understandable, even intriguing. I'd like to know more, he said finally. Not just about the resonance thing, but about Narian biology in general. If you're willing to explain. Nyla's patterns shifted to a bright, pleased configuration. I will be delighted to discuss comparative xenobiology with you, Max. Few humans show such interest after an initial shock response. What followed was one of the most bizarre, yet intellectually stimulating conversations of Max's life. Nyla explained Narian physiology with scientific precision while maintaining an intimacy that made the discussion feel personal rather than clinical. She showed him holographic anatomical models, explained the evolutionary advantages of various Narian features, and answered his increasingly curious questions with candor. As the night progressed, Max found himself drawn back to her, their conversation gradually shifting from academic to personal once more. Her intelligence and honesty were deeply attractive, and he realized the initial shock had given way to genuine interest in everything about her. Would you consider trying again? Nyla asked eventually, her patterns showing vulnerability despite her direct words. I promise the experience improves dramatically once you're prepared for it. Max considered for a moment, then smiled. I'd like that. Just, maybe with a bit more warning this time. I could demonstrate the resonance at lower intensity first, she suggested, so you can become accustomed to it gradually. That sounds scientific, Max said with a laugh. I am a scientist. After all, she replied, her patterns swirling with amusement and anticipation. Their second attempt was indeed a revelation. With proper preparation and understanding, what had seemed terrifying became extraordinary. The resonance, introduced gradually as promised, created sensations unlike anything Max had experienced before. By the time the full intensity engaged, with fair warning, he not only tolerated the sound but found the accompanying sensations exhilarating. Afterward, lying beside her as her skin patterns pulsed in slow, satisfied waves, Max marveled at how quickly terror had transformed into pleasure. The universe, it seemed, still had surprises for him after all. That was... He searched for adequate words. Scientifically fascinating, Nyla suggested with a teasing tone. I was going to say incredible, but yes, that too. He traced the patterns on her arm, watching them respond to his touch. I've never experienced anything like it. Cross-species intimacy offers unique pleasures impossible within single-species interactions, Nyla said. The variations create harmonies that neither could experience alone. Max was about to reply when his communicator buzzed urgently. He reached for it with a groan of annoyance. Thornton, he answered. Captain Thornton, this is dispatch. Priority cargo contract just came through for immediate transport to the Cygnus mining colonies. Triple standard rate for expedited delivery. Are you available? Max looked at Nyla, torn between the unexpected opportunity and his desire to remain with her. When's the departure window? He asked. 12 hours, Captain. Estimated round-trip duration of 4 standard weeks. A month away. Max hesitated, then made a decision. I'll take it. Send the contract details to my secured channel. When he ended the communication, Nyla was watching him with understanding. You're leaving. A month-long haul to Cygnus. Triple pay. He sat up, reluctant to leave the warmth of her bed. I'm sorry. This kind of opportunity doesn't come along often. No apology necessary, she said, though her patterns showed disappointment. I understand professional obligations. I've got 12 hours before departure, Max said, and I'll be back afterward if you'd like that. I would, she said simply. Her patterns brightened slightly. Though I should warn you that 12 hours is insufficient time to explore the full range of Narian physiological responses. Max laughed. Something to look forward to on my return, then. The next morning, as Max prepared to depart for the cargo docks, an urgent message flashed on his communicator. The Galactic Transport Authority was conducting surprise registration. Inspections at all docks, and his vessel's registration had expired 3 days ago. No, he muttered, frantically searching for the renewal confirmation he was certain he'd filed. But the records showed only the application, not the approval. Without valid registration, he couldn't take the Cygnus contract. Problem? Nyla asked, observing his distress. My ship registration expired. With the GTA inspecting today, there's no way I can take the contract. Nyla considered this for a moment, then activated her own communication device. I may be able to help. My diplomatic connections occasionally prove useful for expediting bureaucratic matters. Before Max could object, she was speaking rapidly in the fluid Narian language to someone. After a brief conversation, she turned back to him. My father's administrative attaché will process an emergency registration renewal within the hour. A diplomatic courtesy. You can do that? Max asked, astonished. The benefits of being an ambassador's daughter, she said with a slight smile. Though I suggest you properly renew your registration when you return. Within 45 minutes, Max's communicator chimed with an official registration renewal, valid for the next 6 months. I don't know how to thank you, he said, truly amazed at the efficiency of diplomatic influence. Return safely, she said simply, and perhaps consider a more diligent approach to administrative requirements in the future. As he prepared to leave, Nyla handed him a small data crystal. Educational materials on Narian physiology, she explained. For your journey, and my personal communication frequency, should you wish to contact me from deep space. Max pocketed the crystal, then pulled her close for a final kiss. I'll be back in a month. That's a promise. 2 weeks into his journey to the Cygnus colonies, Max was passing through a particularly dense asteroid field when his communication system pinged with an encrypted message. He was surprised to see Nyla's private frequency as the source. After decrypting the message, he read it with growing shock. Max, I hope this reaches you. I need to inform you of an unexpected development. I am pregnant. Due to my diplomatic lineage's genetic modifications interacting with human biology, the pregnancy is progressing at an accelerated rate. Medical projections suggest birth will occur approximately 6 weeks from conception. I am well, the pregnancy appears healthy, but I wanted you to be aware. Please transmit your medical history when possible. Safe travels. Nyla. Max stared at the message in disbelief. Pregnant? And due in just 4 more weeks? His mind raced with questions, fears, and something else he hadn't expected, a sense of wonder. He immediately began composing a reply, explaining that his ship had sustained damage navigating the asteroid field and repairs would delay his return. He promised to send his medical records and assured her he would return as soon as possible. As he transmitted the message, he wondered if it would reach her. Communications from this sector were notoriously unreliable. Meanwhile, on Vidian Prime, Nyla was facing her own crisis. Her father, Ambassador Pin-Naren, had arrived unexpectedly at her apartment, his face severe. "Daughter, we must speak," he said, dispensing with traditional Narian greeting protocols, a sign of serious displeasure. "Father, this is unexpected," Nyla replied, maintaining formality despite her surprise. Her hand instinctively moved to her abdomen, where the accelerated pregnancy was already showing. The ambassador's patterns flashed with shock as he noticed the gesture. "You are with child? By the 7 moons, Nyla, tell me it is not with a non-Narian." "I am carrying a human Narian child," she confirmed, lifting her chin proudly. "The father is a human cargo hauler named Max Thorn." A cargo hauler? Her father's patterns displayed horrified disbelief. "After all our lineage has achieved? After 17 generations of diplomatic service?" "My research." "Your research does not supersede your familial obligations," the ambassador interrupted, his patterns flaring with rarely displayed anger. "Commissioner Trev has been negotiating a political union between our houses for months. His son Varen was to be your consort." "I was not informed of these negotiations," Nyla said coldly. "Because they were not yet finalized," her father replied. "And now this complication threatens a vital alliance." "My child is not a complication." Nyla's patterns showed fierce determination. "And I will not enter into an arranged consort agreement with Varen Trev or anyone else." Ambassador Naren's patterns shifted to a calculating configuration. "You will return to Nyla within the month. We can address this situation discreetly. The Trevs need never know." The implication was clear, and Nyla's patterns flared with outrage. "I will not terminate this pregnancy, father, nor will I return to Nyla." "You have 1 week to reconsider," the ambassador said, moving toward the door. "After that, I will be forced to revoke your diplomatic status and family connection. Consider carefully what that means, daughter." After her father left, Nyla sat in stunned silence. Revocation of diplomatic status meant not only the loss of her position and privileges, but also the cessation of the specialized medical care her accelerated pregnancy required. More painfully, it meant severance from her family and culture, a devastating prospect for any Narian. She placed both hands on her growing abdomen. "We will find another way," she whispered to her unborn child. 2 days later, Nyla's medical access was revoked without warning. When she attempted to contact her regular physician, Dr. Krell, she received only an automated message stating her diplomatic health authorization had been suspended. Desperate, she contacted the only human on Vidian Prime she knew how to reach, Hank Rogers. "Max's friend Nyla?" Hank's voice came through her communicator, surprise evident. "What can I do for you?" "I require assistance." She explained the situation as concisely as possible, including her pregnancy and her father's ultimatum. "Damn diplomatic politics," Hank muttered. "Listen, my sources say your father has sent security personnel to bring you in. You need to get out of the diplomatic quarter immediately. Can you make it to the human sector?" "I believe so," Nyla said, looking around her apartment, likely for the last time. "Good. My wife Nia has a design studio in the Arts District. She'll meet you at the transit hub and get you somewhere safe. And Nyla? Travel light and avoid the main thoroughfares." Within the hour, Nyla had packed essential belongings and slipped out through a service corridor. Wearing a hooded cloak that concealed her distinctive skin, she made her way to the human sector transit hub. Nia Rogers proved to be a small, energetic woman with a shock of purple hair and numerous artistic implants along her arms. "Hank told me everything," she said, embracing Nyla without hesitation. "Come on, let's get you off the main concourse." Nia's studio turned out to be a spacious loft filled with holographic design equipment and half-finished projects. "It's not as luxurious as you're used to," Nia apologized, "but it's secure. Commercial districts have different security protocols than residential areas. Harder for diplomatic forces to access without causing an incident." "You are extraordinarily kind to help a stranger," Nyla said. "Any friend of Max's is a friend of ours," Nia replied with a warm smile. "Besides, Hank and I are members of the Harmony Coalition. I'm not familiar with this organization. We advocate for interspecies families, provide support, legal assistance, medical care." Speaking of which, Nia checked her communicator. Dr. Eliza Clark should be here within the hour. Hank contacted her as soon as he heard about your situation. Dr. Clark arrived as promised. A tall, elegant woman with gray-streaked hair and the confident bearing of someone used to operating under pressure. She carried a medical case emblazoned with the Harmony Coalition symbol, a stylized double helix formed by intertwining representations of different species. "Dr. Krell transferred your medical files to my private practice," she explained, setting up portable monitoring equipment. "Illegally, I might add, but he's sympathetic to your situation." After a thorough examination, Dr. Clark confirmed what Nyla already knew. The pregnancy was progressing at a remarkable rate, with the fetus developing faster than either human or Narian norms, yet showing healthy signs of both genetic heritages. "The child appears to have inherited some of the Narian muscle structure," she noted, studying the holographic scan, "including what appears to be a developing resonance chamber." Nyla couldn't help but smile at that, imagining Max's reaction. "Given the accelerated development, I estimate delivery will occur within 10 to 12 days, Dr. Clark continued. "I'd prefer to have you in a proper medical facility before then." "That may be difficult," Nyla said. Your father isn't the only one with connections," Dr. Clark interrupted with a smile. "My husband is Thomas Clark, Earth's deputy ambassador to the Galactic Council. We have resources of our own." Hank arrived later that evening with troubling news. "Your father's security team is conducting sweeps through the human sector, and Commissioner Trev has hired private contractors to find you as well." "Trev, too?" Nia looked alarmed. "Why would he get involved personally?" "Political marriages are serious business in high diplomatic circles," Nyla explained. "The loss of such an alliance would be a significant blow to both families' influence. We need to move you to a more secure location," Hank decided. "Dr. Clark has arranged access to a coalition safe house in the maintenance district." "When?" Nyla asked. "Now," Hank said grimly. Trev's contractors were asking questions 2 levels down. "It won't take them long to reach this sector." As they prepared to leave, Nyla doubled over with a sudden, sharp pain. Dr. Clark was at her side instantly. "Contractions," she confirmed after a quick scan. "Early stage, but progressing rapidly. The stress may have accelerated things further." "So much for your 10-day estimate," Nia said. "We need to get her to the safe house immediately," Dr. Clark ordered. "She could deliver within 48 hours at this rate." Meanwhile, Max was pushing his ship's engines beyond safety parameters, racing back to Vidian Prime. He had finally received Nyla's messages, including updates from Hank about the deteriorating situation. What made matters worse was his discovery that Commissioner Trev was aboard his own vessel, heading to the same diplomatic summit where Max was delivering cargo. The commissioner had been coldly polite during their brief interactions, giving no indication he knew about Max's connection to Nyla. When Max intercepted a communication from Trev to his security team about apprehending the Narian fugitive, he knew he had to act. While the commissioner attended a formal dinner with the Cygnus Mining Consortium executives, Max made his move. The diplomatic shuttle was sleek, fast, and absurdly easy to steal for someone with Max's background. The automated systems barely protested when he used an emergency override he'd picked up years ago from a less-than-reputable Vespid engineer. Within minutes, he was breaking orbit, plotting the fastest possible course to Vidian Prime. Computer, maximum sustainable speed to Vidian Prime. Max ordered. Warning, selected velocity exceeds safety parameters by 42%. Potential engine failure probability exceeds acceptable risk threshold. Override safety protocols. Authorization Thornton Alpha 7. Safety protocols overridden. Estimated arrival at Vidian Prime in 18 hours. Behind him, 3 security vessels launched from the main diplomatic carrier, but the shuttle's superior engines quickly left them behind. Max knew he'd be facing serious charges for stealing a diplomatic vessel, but that was a problem for later. Right now, all that mattered was reaching Nyla before Trev's people did. On Vidian Prime, Hank, Nia, and Dr. Clark had managed to transport Nyla to the safe house, an abandoned maintenance warehouse converted by the Harmony Coalition into a secure facility. The contractions were coming regularly now, though still widely spaced. "This isn't ideal," Dr. Clark muttered, setting up portable medical equipment. "But we've handled worse conditions." Nyla lay on a medical bed, her skin patterns fluctuating with each contraction. "The child comes when it chooses," she said with remarkable composure. "Time and place are secondary concerns. Our coalition contacts report Narian security forces searching the station's mid-levels," Hank said, checking his secured communicator. "And Trev's contractors have started bribing dock workers for information." "How far is Max?" Nia asked. "His last message said 18 hours out. He borrowed a faster ship." Dr. Clark raised an eyebrow. "Borrow? Best not to ask for details," Hank replied with a grim smile. They had barely finished setting up the necessary equipment when the facility's perimeter alarm activated. Hank checked the security feed and swore softly. "Narian security. 6 of them, full diplomatic enforcement gear. How would they find us so quickly?" "My father's resources are considerable," Nyla said, wincing through another contraction. "And he would have anticipated the Harmony Coalition's involvement." Dr. Clark opened a concealed compartment and began pulling out equipment. "Nia, contact Thomas. Tell him to invoke Protocol Sanctuary. Hank, help me move Nyla to the secondary location." "There isn't time," Nyla gasped, her patterns showing intense distress. "The child comes now." As if to confirm her words, the external doors to the warehouse shuddered under impact, the Narian security team attempting to breach the entrance. "Harmony members, assemble at position 3. Nia shouted into her communicator. Within minutes, a dozen individuals of various species began pouring in through concealed entrances, coalition members responding to the emergency call. They formed a protective barrier around Nyla. As Dr. Clark continued her work, the sounds of the security team's attempts to breach the door growing louder. "Push, Nyla," Dr. Clark urged. "The head is crowning." With a final, powerful effort, Nyla delivered her child, a boy with pale green skin and distinctly human features, yet with the subtle pattern capabilities of his Narian heritage already visible on his tiny skin. "Thuran," Nyla whispered, naming him according to Narian tradition as she held him for the first time. Born of 2 worlds. The moment of peace was shattered as the warehouse door finally gave way. Narian security forces poured in, weapons ready, only to freeze at the unexpected tableau before them. Behind them strode Ambassador Pin, Naren himself, his expression severe until he saw his daughter and the newborn child. His patterns shifted rapidly from anger to shock to something more complex. "Father," Nyla acknowledged, holding her son protectively. "Meet your grandson, Naren." The ambassador approached slowly, his security team remaining at a respectful distance. The Harmony Coalition members stood their ground, creating a living barrier between Nyla and potential danger. "You have defied familial obligation and diplomatic protocol," the ambassador said, his voice formal but his patterns showing unexpected emotion. "Yet the child lives and appears strong." "He is strong," Nyla confirmed. "And he is both Narian and human, a bridge between our peoples." The moment hung in delicate balance until it was shattered by new arrivals. Commissioner Trev and his private security team, storming into the warehouse with considerably less ceremony than the Narian delegation. Ambassador Naren, I demand immediate custody of your daughter and the aberration she carries. Trev's voice boomed through the space. The ambassador turned slowly, his patterns shifting to diplomatic formality. Commissioner Trev, this is an internal Narian matter. Your presence is neither requested nor required. Our houses had an arrangement, Trev sneered. Your daughter was promised to my son. This incident invalidates nothing. The human spawn can be disavowed, its existence officially denied. The child is my grandson, Ambassador Naren said, his patterns displaying a protective configuration that surprised even Nyla. And while I may have disagreed with my daughter's choices, I will not permit any harm to come to her child. You would protect a half-breed over a valuable political alliance? Trev's face contorted with disgust. I would protect family over politics, the ambassador replied, his stance shifting to place himself between Trev and Nyla. Something I should have remembered sooner. Trev's security team started to advance, but froze as the warehouse's main doors burst open yet again. Max Thornton stood there, disheveled and wild-eyed, a stolen diplomatic shuttle security badge still clutched in his hand. Nyla, he shouted, taking in the scene with growing confusion. Perfect timing, Hank muttered. As usual, Max pushed his way through the gathered groups, finally reaching Nyla's side. He stared in wonder at the tiny infant in her arms, his expression transforming from determination to awe. Is that your son? Nyla confirmed, her patterns showing joy despite the chaos around them. The Wren. He has your eyes, Max whispered, gently touching the child's cheek. And some of your patterns, too. This is the cargo hauler? Commissioner Trev's voice cut through the moment, dripping with disdain. This is who you chose over my son. A future diplomatic leader? I chose love over political advantage, Nyla replied calmly. Something neither you nor my father initially understood. Ambassador Naren's patterns showed regret. Understand now, daughter. Too late, perhaps, but I understand. It's not too late, Max said, straightening to face both the ambassador and the commissioner. This child is both human and Narian. He could represent something new, a living symbol of what our species can accomplish together. A touching sentiment, Trev sneered, but legally meaningless. The child has no status, no citizenship, no protection under either human or Narian law. My security team is authorized to take all three of you into custody pending diplomatic resolution. That would be unwise, Commissioner, came a new voice from the entrance. A distinguished man in Earth diplomatic attire stepped forward, accompanied by his own security detail, as this child falls under Earth Protectorate status. Ambassador Clark, Max recognized Dr. Clark's husband immediately from news broadcasts. Deputy Ambassador, the man corrected with a slight smile, but with full authority in this matter. Captain Thornton is an Earth citizen, making his child eligible for Earth citizenship regardless of the mother species. Any attempt to detain them would constitute a direct violation of the Galactic Charter's family rights provisions. Trev's face darkened. This isn't over. The Narian Diplomatic Council will. The Narian Diplomatic Council will be considering a proposal for a new interspecies family policy. Ambassador Naren interrupted, his patterns showing resolution. With my full endorsement. Times change, Commissioner, and diplomacy must change with them. Trev glared at them all, then turned on his heel. Come, he ordered his security team. We're finished here. As Trev and his people departed, the tension in the warehouse gradually dissipated. Dr. Clark continued tending to Nyla and baby therein, confirming both were healthy despite the dramatic circumstances of the birth. I stole a diplomatic shuttle, Max admitted to Ambassador Naren. I'm probably facing serious charges. The shuttle experienced a navigation malfunction and was heroically guided to safety by a passing cargo hauler, the ambassador replied, his patterns showing subtle amusement. At least, that will be the official record. Why the change of heart? Max asked. Ambassador Naren looked at his daughter and grandson. Trev revealed his true intentions too late. He planned to deny my grandson's human heritage entirely, erase it from official records, and raise him as a pure Narian. I may have been wrong about many things, but I would never deny a child his true heritage. 3 months later, Max and Nyla stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel Harmony, watching the stars streak by as they traveled to the newly established Interspecies Family Rights Conference. Max had accepted a position as human liaison to the Multi-Species Family Rights Commission, while Nyla had been appointed scientific advisor to the same body. Little therein slept peacefully in a specially designed carrier, his skin patterns occasionally shifting in response to his dreams. His mixed heritage was evident in his features, human eyes and facial structure combined with subtle Narian patterns and coloration. Your father's policy proposal is gaining support, Max noted, checking his diplomatic communicator. 7 species have already endorsed it. He has become surprisingly progressive in his old age, Nyla replied with amusement. Though I suspect his attachment to his grandson is the primary motivator. Politics and family have always been intertwined for Narians, Max observed. Maybe this is just diplomacy in another form. Perhaps, Nyla agreed, but more honest than most diplomatic endeavors. As if on cue, Theron awoke and made a tiny but distinctive slurping sound that echoed across the observation deck. Both parents burst into laughter. I forgot to mention, Nyla said, wiping tears of mirth from her eyes, the juvenile version of the resonance is considerably louder than the adult form. He'll grow out of it. Eventually. Great, Max groaned, but his smile never wavered as he lifted his son. Something to look forward to. Theron made the sound again, his tiny patterns swirling with contentment as he gazed up at his father. The sound that had once sent Max running in terror now filled him with a peculiar joy, the sound of his extraordinary family and their unlikely path through the stars. You know, Max said, wrapping his free arm around Nyla, I always prided myself on being unflappable, on having seen everything the universe could throw at me. And now, Nyla asked, her patterns showing affection. Now I know the universe is far stranger and more wonderful than I ever imagined, he replied, looking from his son to his partner. And I wouldn't have it any other way.